what has the club been doing to invest in the player recently with technology and things like that off the field? Because I think there's been some allocated budget money towards that going forward, correct?
Yeah, so everything we've looked at, our first objectives were to get the club structured in the youth side, which we did with bringing in the ECNL and ECNL Regional League, and now the pre-ECNL boys and girls, which are going to be starting with equity boys and girls this year.
Yep.
And then we've got, the GLA, we've got the competitive tier, so we've built the structure of the youth component, starting with the juniors all the way up now. And then we've added in the end piece, which is our USL Academy, USL2, USLW League. Mm-hmm. So that was the first objective for us, is to build the player pathway. Then everything after that has been talking about how do we add more resources to help our players ultimately be the best that they can be. So we talk about coaching education. We talk about leadership development. We talk about sponsorship dollars to help offset financial aid needs for kids so that there's more players of need that can continue to play the game. And many of these kids come from low-income areas. And these are kids that are going to maybe be some of the most impactful players in our teams.
Amen.
So we're blessed to be able to do that as well. And then, as we expand that, we're talking about VEO camera systems for all of our regional level high performance teams, from U10 all the way up to U19. We talk about BPro. BPro is a high-level data analysis video software system that allows you to take specific teams within different levels of our programming to break down high-level video footage, individual player profiling. Then we also have coming on this year Sports Lab. So Sports Lab is going to be coming on for some of our younger teams that are getting ready for Olympia 11 or just starting in Olympia 11 to really break down some almost like question answer type visual cues and lessons online for them to learn a lot of guided discovery of asking questions, experimenting with it a little bit to learn the game, to really start to understand the game, not just from being taught on the field and not just being taught by watching a game, but also having a testing resource that allows them to quiz answer, right, and ultimately learn the right answers from their computer, right? So I don't know if you want to tell me a little bit more about Sports Lab.
Yeah, and I'll elaborate more on the technical side of all that. You're right. We looked at everything with the pathway first, right? Get the structure, get the environment the way we'd like it to be, almost like a pottery wheel, right? So we really worked on keeping our hands on it, getting everything now is shaped. Now we got to put on those finishing touches, maybe add a little color here, a little bit of this. But it always starts with our game model, our philosophy, our methodology. So I think that also makes Force unique, right? We're not just looking at it just to do it. It's purposeful, right? So before I even go to Sports Lab, let's start with BPro. BPro is an investment in the club to how do we refine our game model, how we want Force players to play, right? That goes into decision making. And the why behind that is families are investing their dollars, their resources into Cleveland Force to develop their kid, which we believe on our side is hopefully to play at the high school, college, or professional level, right? So everything we do in our development is about decision making. So BPro allows us to break down that data based on our USL teams because that's our senior team. So where do we have the most passing? What zone, right? For as a club, we're hoping that we have like 80% possession in the midfield, okay? I can actually pull out that data and find out who's possessing the ball in the middle and then benchmark that player as the gold standard. For instance, I can benchmark him, get every successful pass, every failed pass, clip pass, short pass, medium pass, every type of data point you could possibly think of, the AI can capture that. Okay, and then I can file that as a technical director as like this is the standard in 2023 summer of a player that's playing at a high Division I level, and then say, okay, what are the characteristic traits and the profiles of this player, not only in the moment, but because we know Cole for so long, working with Blake, being in our system, we can now start to kind of look at his pathway. What was good, what was bad, what can we improve on? And then use that data back throughout the club. So the club this past season invested to give me as a technical director the opportunity to analyze data from our U13s all the way to our senior team at U23, right? So now my role over the next 12 months is to take that data, obviously give it back to the players so they get better, but start to benchmark that so that our coaching staff can start to see what does that profile look like. Why is that important? Okay, well, like most businesses, you're going to have new coaches that come in. What happens when that new coach comes in? You got to train them, right? Because the family and the player have had an expectation of this is how we play. These are the language words that we use. And we want to do what's best for the kid. everything choice we make is player centered, right? So Be Pro has allowed us an opportunity to really analyze that data at a higher level so that when a coach comes in, they have a visual representation of what we're trying to get them to do. They have real tangible data of like what should be done in these areas of the field and how do we want it to be done. To me, I don't think there's many people doing it at that level, Marco, right? They're really trying to refine it for their coaching staff and the player to get that. And B-Pro's been excellent because they're working directly with us. So I can actually communicate to the developers, the programmers, and there's certain things that I'm starting to realize I don't have to share all the time that we want in our style. You know, how a player might function as an 8 versus another close function of an 8, right? The program can actually pull that data out for me, which is so amazing to me. So amazing.
Well, the piece to that, Everett, is you can't, that's a way that you can replicate yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without having to be physically somewhere. I know you've tried so hard and you're going crazy just
right here.
chasing, trying to be everywhere. And that's a huge problem here in the United States is singular directors trying to influence everything where you've used really high level AI technology to be able to really invest your time into replicating yourself digitally almost to be able to be more efficient with delivering that from your coaching education piece internally to our entire directing staff and then also to their sub-staff for our contracted head coaches and assistant coaches. So kudos to you on that, but that's something that, you know, at any time, any club can do, just a matter of, are you willing to invest in it?
Exactly.
And are you willing to put in the effort and the work to replicate that mentality of what you're really looking for to replicate on the field of how do we want to play? When do we want to play that way? Where do we want to play that way? And so forth and so on.
Yeah, exactly. And then just going into the sports lab, right? We want to look at the player and what do players in this generation do on a regular basis?
They're on their phones or on their tablets. Or,
something, right? They probably can write code better than most adults, right? We don't even know what code is half the time, right? So yeah, sports lab's gonna be great because it is interactive, right? It gives game situations, which a lot of our curriculum is built on, right? We're very focused on technical growth because we live in America. So kids don't typically go out and play with the ball by themselves. And even if they do, it's rudimentary playing. You know, there's not a creative improvisation brain in there. You know, I think, Brazilians say what, joga bonito, right? Having a little bit of samba.
There's no street that these kids are going out to and playing with 5 to 6 of their best friends.
Yeah, right.
With this is rhythm. Playing with, mom or dad or brother, sister in the backyard if lucky.
Yeah, and even if exactly. Even if it's in the backyard, even that game becomes rudimentary, right? Because you don't have anybody with tricks and flicks in the family.
Correct.
Right? And if you do,
keeping it in the family.
It is what it is, right?
Better be a talented family if you want to advance that way.
That is the facts, and you can say that for every sport, right? Look at LeBron's kid right now, or anything else. Beckham's kid's doing well. Blah blah blah. Right? So, sports lab though, it's going to be interactive, right? It gives a game situation. Something that's I think most coaches and people could resonate with. Straight ball, diagonal run, straight ball. You know, just little things like that. That would be important for a forward to understand or a midfielder to understand. So we're really excited about that. And it's really cool. I think I should celebrate this too, that our directors are really leading this innovation, right? Because Chris Green is the one who has gone through his licensing, right? Interacted with other high-level coaches, starts to get his brain going a little innovation here or there, and he came back to us.
Well, he's also seeing, to give him credit, he's also seeing a behavioral pattern issue within the environment at certain ages. He works in the U13-14 with a crossover into U12. So he's seeing ways that he could use technology to advance the understanding of the players at these ages. Correct. So, he's creating solutions to the problems.
Amen.
So, we're again always going to support that. That's the phase of where we are in our organization right now is we've built the system. Now it's how do you refine the system and how do you continue to add resources that will only help the system grow and to, ultimately become more successful on an individual player basis, on a team basis, on a macro club basis.
Yeah, and those aren't always visible to the mothers and the fathers that are investing into their kid, right? They're driving, they're doing all these things. You don't see these little tidbits that might happen to you when you get to 15 because you're only 10, right? Or the other way around, forgot that they happened. I'm 15 and hey, remember all that stuff that happened when you were 10 years old? There was a lot of cool stuff going on.
That's
in there.
why you know the game like you know it today.
Exactly. So those are all some fun things that we've invested in both on and off field. And really try to have that resonate through our conversation today. Hopefully, that comes through is that we try and make our decisions based on our values, right? But it's always player centered, right? The player comes first, and then our values, and then what can we use to enhance that investment into ourselves, investment into our players, investment into technology. Those aren't immediate tangible things for everybody, but the club has done a great job to really work outside the box, I think, in that area for sure.
So Everett, you talk about all these programs, right? And I think the thing that maybe gets lost with parents is, well, my kid doesn't get that. Well, in time, all these kids get the experience, right? We invest different types of resources at different ages and in different programs within the organization based on the age of the player, the level of the player, and ultimately the level of the program, right? That's where we look at it, where some parents, you talk about sports lab. Well, we're also beta testing sports lab, right? And if it works, if we can see sustained growth and positivity from that investment, we can look to expand that. Instead of, immediately expanding it to 25 to 30 teams, we're going to do it in a subgroup. So we'll beta test it first so that a small portion can give us the data we're looking for to see if it is conducive to their learning. And if it does show us on-field improvement, now we can take a look at it from a value proposition to say, how can we scale this across 5 times the amount of teams so that more kids get this experience, so that it becomes a provided tool year in and year out when we feel as though we need that tool for those certain age players. Is there any type of program that you look at and you say, this is a program that maybe we could use in the future that is something that we might look for into future years?
Yeah. We are currently thinking of some innovative ways to impact our juniors program, right? The youngest kids. Because you spoke about Sports Lab or B Pro. Those are very much tailored to like 12 and above. Of course, in my role, I'm using it to get some data with the younger ones, like the B Pro we mentioned, and you said beta testing it.
And VAO cameras, you started integrating at U11 and U12 this year?
Yep, and I went even further. Again, a beta test. I've had 3 to 4 opportunities where I did some of our academy work because of what we had our academy director doing at that time. Academy meaning juniors director, Chris Mueller, really working on developing that curriculum at that younger age. So as a younger family in the system, we also think about that, but it's more organic is the word I would use, right? That investment into coaches is something that we use to then develop that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old to make sure they're getting the experience they need, because they're not just ready for all that technology, right? They may be doing it on their mom or dad's phone or whatever the case may be, but from a footballing standpoint, it sticks to our philosophy, right? Kids got to play, right? We don't want to overload them in that stage. It's called the fantasy stage for a reason,
Correct.
Right? Just use your imagination.
It's building blocks.
It's building blocks, right? So that's the way that we've looked at it, so it may not be relevant to our immediate families, but it definitely should be small pots of gold down the line, right? Knowing you're involved in an organization that is thinking about you based on where you are, right? And where you're going to end up, right? So that's really, really important. So as much as we've made these investments into the club with these older teams and getting them ready for college or to become pros, it all starts in the very beginning. Like we think about this kind of stuff with our 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, even in the way that we group our kids, right? We take the time to look at them based on their personality and their aptitude, right? So one of the things that we've started to do behind the scenes, little by little, is really develop our early age player profile, right? What does this kid look like? Is he tenacious or is she tenacious, right? Attention to detail, their awareness. Do they listen with their eyes and ears, right? We even have something in there that we want all of our players to refer to the coach as coach, not Marko, not Everett, right? Those are innovative ways to bring in science and data to then profile the player to really start to say, hey, is my kid an elite athlete, right? Because isn't that what some of these families want at the end of the day? Hey, I was an athlete. My kid looks like they're an athlete. But what are the measurable things that you look at to determine they're an athlete?
To find the early indicators.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we've looked at it at every level. Those younger ones, we try and do it organically, like I said, where the coach's lens is being enhanced through meetings behind the scenes. And then we use technology to verify that data as they get older and it becomes more real, because we tell every kid, and been really blessed with some of the new staff we brought on lately to kind of show this off. Every kid in our organization under the age of 16 knows we train towards 16, right? You can go to a 5-year-old right now. What age does Coach ever tell you his focus on? 16. It's like awesome, right? So different ways of using science, data, technology, knowledge, right, at different stages, and then giving that value proposition to the family to say that we've invested both into the coach to be educated enough to do such a thing. And then also using actual artificial intelligence, video, things like that to enhance the player pathway for the kid as they go forward.
Sure. Another thing to, I guess, add to it, you kind of referenced it a little bit as kids get to that age of 16. Another area we've invested into is we've really purposely gone out and sought out a director to be in charge of college directorship and college guidance and recruitment. So Steve Brodarski, who's got 25 to 30 years of Division I men's and women's collegiate coaching experience, has come into the organization as a full-time staff member now. He'll be working on the ECNL Girls Regional League side, but he's also going to be leading our entire staff and our entire player membership body on college recruitment. He's going to be giving them resources on what to do and when to do it. He's going to be available for questions and answers with any parents and players, but it's got to be from the players. The players have to take the ownership of it, and Steve will help educate them on that process. So, now that he just got onboarded a few days ago, he's going to start getting all the sophomores rising to be juniors now, ready for their June 15th eligibility date. So, we're very proud that we've been able to invest into that position because that's the one thing that we felt as though it was a big burden being put on just our coaching staff and our directors. So now we are kind of giving that top level cover and that top level guidance to be able to just provide better services to those kids and their families that have aspirations to be collegiate athletes. So that's another resource that's been added into the organization that's going to be new for this upcoming year and hopefully for many years to come.
So let me dive into that just so there's clarity for a family, right? Listening to this, a sophomore rising up. So you are college recruitment director, right? Is there more from a macro standpoint to make sure they know the timelines and the do's and don'ts? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
From a micro standpoint, those individual players need to be working with their program director and their head coach to be the resources that are going to call those college coaches, do the follow-ups. But it's always on the player. If you're going to a showcase, you need to reach out to that coach, not 3 days before the showcase, but weeks beforehand, so that coach can confirm they're going to be there and they will put you on their schedule to come watch you. You're the one that has to go and commit to their ID camps and clinics throughout the course of the year, especially in the summertime. Steve is really going to be from a top-level directorship, thinking about it from a guidance standpoint, and then he's going to pass that relationship on to your head coach or to your program director, who's going to help you find that right fit for the next level.
That's a great process. Thanks for clarifying that, right? Because I think that sometimes gets lost in translation, just culturally, right? Everyone's going through this journey and expecting like they get to that age of 16 and the club's going to be there for them and like, hey, there's a coach calling here tomorrow and there's this and that. They're kind of holding their hand. So rare. Yeah, it's very rare. That doesn't exist, right? So it's really nice to hear that the club has made that investment on that top level just to really kind of give them a guiding light. When you were talking there, you know what I thought of? Like a lighthouse, right? These people are going through a storm and they're trying to figure things out. Their kids are getting ready for college and they got all this stuff going on. They just want a beacon of light to say, hey, come this way. Got some answers for you, right? But then when you get closer to that light, you maybe really start to think there's other ships out there, like your directors and people that have kind of been around. They've gotten through these storms to really guide you on the first level, right? Talk to your director, talk to your coach, because those are ones that are going to really advocate for your character and your training habits to that next level, if you want to go there. So good, another investment, I think, really going to pay dividends for us, as an organization, and most importantly for the player. Just so they got to understand, hey, you're in control, but that we have this top level cover for you to kind of guide you through this. I think that's going to be really nice for the players as he starts to get himself more integrated.
Absolutely, and Steve's a wonderful resource and very great educator and communicator and a brilliant soccer mind. So he'll be, I think, really well received by all of our membership once they get to spend a time. I know he's been on the job for a week. He's already held about a half dozen to a dozen college recruitment conversations with parents. So, his value is already being felt to our members. So kudos to Steve. And, we're just glad that we're able to provide these types of additional player resources to our membership.
Mark, you know what I'm realizing through this conversation? We've made a lot of investments.
We have made a lot of investments.
Both financial and physical and emotional.
And there's more to come.
There's more to come because as I'm listening, even on our administrative side, we've made a tremendous investment, right? We have another individual, great member of the organization, been a coach with us, been a director with us, and Matt. He's now moved into more of an administrative space, but it's really to continue to provide a service to our families, to really be on the cutting edge is the words that I'm looking at to say, how do we continue to not just look on field, but off field and put individuals in a space, right? We spoke about Robin earlier, to say, hey, work-life balance, things of that nature. And you brought up with me, chasing things around, trying to do different things. But even that, what is it that is going to kind of improve on that administrative side? And what area will Matt be working in directly?
So you look at just the investment we have from an off-field perspective, right? You have Bob, you have myself, you have Adam, you have Matt, and you have other individuals. We're going to be bringing on potentially some program managers as well, which will roll out and explain to parents what is a program manager and what kind of a resource is a program manager, which again is a value add mainly to our parents and to our directors from a support standpoint, but really a mouthpiece and a communicator to the parents so that they're really tied into the process and are along with the journey. So there's no questions that are being asked that aren't, getting answered. When you look at Matt has done a wonderful job for us on the field as a director since he's gotten here. And he's done so much work on the field that, one, giving him a better work-life balance, two, putting him in a position where he's able to work from home more frequently, but also three, putting him in a very good position where he's excellent in an admin role as well. So, Matt's going to be our full-time club admin. He'll have resources and support underneath him with other individuals, but he will really be working with myself, Adam, and Bob, and all of our directors to just deliver a great experience and process off the field that most parents will never experience. Most players will never experience. When that kid shows up to a game, when that kid joins the club on a Monday and that kid showing up to a game on Saturday, it's because of Matt's effort. And, he's a unsung hero, as are any of the admins in the entire United States that work in any youth sport. It's, that's why they do, awards for club admins, is because they are really unsung heroes. They do a tremendous amount of work. They work late hours. They never say no. They bend over backwards to help us get that kid's uniform in place, to get that kid's player pass, to make sure that rosters are submitted for managers. So they are the linchpin on the, behind the scenes that nobody really knows, but it's another area that we've invested into. And, we know Matt has done a great job. He's been kind of partly in this role previously, and now he's really going to take on a larger capacity. So we're really excited for that. I personally am really excited to work with Matt more frequently. So I'm really looking forward to it. Happy for Matt that he's got good work-life balance now. And, he's still involved in the organization. He's still going to do great for us. So, really looking forward to seeing what it looks like having a full-time admin in the organization right now.
And I could say from a coaching lens, same thing, right? That everything you described, being able to go to a game and not have to worry about the auxiliary things, right, is amazing. Because there's already so many other things that we're prepping for as coaches, to know that our organization that we work for as coaches and directors are really taking that next step to say, hey, how do we help you guys be better on the field? How do we keep you focused on that? It's amazing. It really, really is. So, looking forward to that next step. And that investment was huge for us to, provide the best service we can for these kids and these families.
Yeah, certainly.